So, not that they don't need a new city hall, but responsible government goes to the public with a bond measure. A bond measure expires when the construction is complete. It requires the city to be responsive to what the voters want in a new city hall. And if you itemize, it's tax deductible. There's one other piece of that. It's just more accountable than separating out general fund services and saying you have to pay an extra fee for this, but then they can spend whatever they want that's in the general fund on capital projects and things like that. So it provides more accountability. So we went over the 14.4 million. I know I'm leaving something out here. The budget. So, I was notorious for reading the budget and asking questions to the extent that by the time I left council, they had really limited the amount of questions we could ask. And when I asked to see the administrative salaries and the raises and things like that, they required me to get a majority vote of the budget committee and the council in order to get staff to answer that question. And I didn't have enough votes on the budget committee to bring that information back, so we never could look at it. But I do know they're complaining of a recession. They are boasting that they've cut FTEs, full-time equivalents, and money out of the budget. But every year, up until this year, 2013, not only have the administrators, but everybody has gotten a salary raise and a cost of living increase. In 2013, because they knew it was politically, they wanted to be able to say, oh, we have foregone salary increases. They didn't do it, the exempt employees, the administration, they didn't do it in 2013. But up to that point, through this whole time that they say they've been suffering because of recession, they've been doing that. The other thing is they're saying they've cut expenditures, but when you look at the budget, you can see that and just for an example, between 2011 and 2012, expenditures increased 14 million. So then between 2012 and 2013, they dropped 5 million. So the question is, are they taking credit for cutting $9 million? And if you go back and you look, you see you've got big increases and then you've got smaller decreases, and big decreases, smaller decreases. So the other budget trick, am I out of time? Okay. The other budget trick is in July, when the budget is adopted. The city manager habitually, every year, underestimates the amount of revenue that they're going to get. Usually anywhere between, I'd say, $4 and $6 million. And so in December, when it comes time to do the reconciliation, and they call that a supplemental budget, they have all this unanticipated revenue. And they don't set it aside for essential services. In December 2012, when they were talking about asking for more money for the voters for these services, they had enough money to fund these services and more. And what they did was they put it into the City Hall Reserve. They gave a bunch of it to planning and development to continue to do the kind of, repetitive, redundant plans that they keep doing, and then they go on the shelf, and nobody pays attention to them. So they waste money on things like that, and they put money in reserves, and that's the other issue. The standard accounting policy is 2 months of expenditures of your operating budget as a reserve. So for the city, 1 month is $10.5 million. So when we started this campaign and we started targeting the city and saying, you've got plenty of money in reserves to pay for these services, why are they on the chopping block? Now they're saying they need 3 months of operating expenditures. That's another $10.5 million. $10.5 million is more than they need to fund their supposed $6 million budget gap. So I could go on and on and on because I spent way too much quality time with the budget, in the last 4 months or whatever it's been. But I have a feeling I might be preaching to the choir. And so what I'd really like to do is entertain your questions.
We're all going to sing right now.
Oh, there's one more thing I want to say before that. Okay, so this is, we have this is some information. We have a website, there's a lot of information on there. It links both to the ballot measure, it links to the ordinance, it links to the resolution, and it has any of the articles that we've written, and it gives generally, where we're going to be speaking and things like that, plus there's an email connection there that you can send questions if you like. I know they say they're grassroots, but they've got 1,400 city employees that are willing to step up and knock on doors. We're working as hard as we can. It seems like when we get to talk to people about, and I get to show them the documents, I've met with a very prominent local Republican who, when I called her up and I said, I want to talk to you about this fee. She said, well, I intend to support it. And I said, that's fine. I'd like to talk to you anyway. And when I showed her the document, she said, I should have known better. I'm thinking that this is not such a good idea. So I think it's really important for us to get our message in front of people. Because I think given the fact that they've got 1,400 city employees, their friends and their family, all the people who use the Sheldon Pool and the whole library community, they have ready-made constituencies. We don't have that. We're really going against the grain here. So we need help. We'd like to do a mailing out to 60,000 voters, both Dems and Republicans, just people who vote. We'd like to get this out in front of people. That's going to cost $17,000. So we are definitely stumping for money, although I feel bad that we're making a pitch, because I don't want to compete with your pitch because that is such a worthy cause. But anyway, so let's have some questions. This gentleman?
2 questions. If I have a business in the city limits and a home in the city limits, it's $40, right?
Yes, it's $480.
And what's the process to get on the budget committee?
Well, I don't remember anymore. I think it's October when they have openings for boards and commissions, but you can go to the city's website and they'll tell you.
I'm wondering what the impact is. I have a friend whose professional office is in Eugene, so would that would be subject to
Yes.
the business fee. She owns a rental property, one single family house in Eugene. What would be the impact there? Would that household pay that? Or
That
is she-
household would generally pay it if they pay their utility bill.
Okay.
So in a situation where I was talking to somebody who owns kind of like a strip mall thing with a number of businesses in there, and his liability is way over thousands, and because he has 5-year leases with those folks, he can't pass the cost on to the lenders, so he has to absorb it. I've heard from people who have a business in Eugene but live in Springfield. They don't even get to vote on this tax.
Yeah.
Yes, this one.
Bonnie, I stand up to identify myself. I'm Ted Shearer, and it was my cell phone that went off, so I want to apologize also to the president. I found agreement with your presentation, and I think I've been here for your other 6 presentations to this group. I don't think I ever found agreement with you before. And I respect your opinion, but you have come a long way. I don't recognize you, and I want to welcome you into the real world.
I have always been a fiscal conservative. I have always been a fiscal conservative. You may not have noticed it because I did a number of things.
You never voted with them. You always voted with your group. But anyway, I respect you very much.
Well, thank you for those comments, Dick.
Yeah, we've known each other for a few days, right?
Yeah.
What's the total city budget and what's the goal here? How far are you gonna take it?
Well, the general fund is around 130, and when you add, from well, it just depends what part of the budget do you want. Do you want like the total budget, or do you want?
Yeah, what's the total revenue that's coming into the city?
Total revenue from the general fund is about $170 million.
So what's we increase at 3% a year? So when does it compound?
It hasn't increased 3% a year, but it has increased 3.7% since 2009. So there has been some impact, but it's still increasing. The revenue is still increasing. And you know, they've got the fees, stormwater fees, wastewater fees, all those other fees that they have. In 2012, stormwater fees went up 12%, and in 2013, they went up 3.7%. So those things are going up also. Everything's going up. Heat, water.
Sorry.
Okay.
Time for one more question, keep it brief.
Wait, Bob had a question.
Sorry, okay, Bob.
We spent at least $2 million designing the last city hall. Can any of that money be recouped, or is it just kind of gone?
That's gone, and that was a big waste of money, and I said it was a big waste of money at the time. The $9 million that's sitting there, at least $9 million, you know, actually, there's one fund that feeds into another fund, and both funds are buried in a bigger fund, and they're not reported out separately. So these things are very difficult to follow, and it's actually gotten worse since John Reese became manager. But there is not at least $9 million that I have corroborated, and that money it just takes a council motion. They put it into that fund, they can take it out of that fund.
Richard, you
Very quickly, is there any consideration given to whether or not a business is profitable?
No, and there's no consideration whether or not, you know, if somebody maybe is above the threshold for low income, and that's another whole story around how they're claiming they can mitigate the impact on low income people, but in actuality they can't really, and they sure can't guarantee it. But if somebody, let's say, it's if they make the median income, and that's like $42,000 a year, and that's an average household's 2.25 people. And somebody has extraordinary medical expenses. You know, income is not always an indicator of whether or not you can afford something.
If you're running a business out of your home, are you going to get whacked twice? I mean, if you're a multi-level business person, you know, you're selling Amway, are you going to get nailed twice?
It depends on the configuration of how you have your office in your home. And then you've got to ask yourself, ooh, boy, somebody's got to administer this, and they've got to go out there. It's going to cost a lot to administer.
Bonnie, thank you so much.